Dr. Shea from Learn ABA with Dr. Shea, and it's Tuesday, so it's time for the Tuesday tip of the week. And this week we are going to talk about if reinforcement is fair or reinforcers are fair, and if they're not, how you can tell. Because you guys loved the signs of damage research, I thought we would do another kind of like basic research animal study thing and port it over. So we're going to talk about like what is fair and how we can describe fairness in behavior analytic ways, and then how you would know if people that you're working with, be it clients or whatever individuals, think that the reinforcement they're receiving is unfair. So what signs of that would be. And I think it's interesting for us to think about a concept of fairness, generally speaking. So let's get into it. So have you ever seen a chimpanzee like throw a cucumber out of frustration, just like chuck it at someone? If not, you are in for a treat. There's this classic experiment by researchers Brosnan and DeWall, where chimps were given either a cucumber or a grape as a reward for completing a task. So it was their reinforcers, right? And grapes are really high value and very preferred among chimpanzees, whereas cucumbers are like neither here nor there. It'd be like, for humans, chocolate versus a stalk of broccoli, right? Like, we like it, but, we're not going to work really hard for a single stalk of broccoli. And that's known about chimps. So before we get into it more, we're going to watch what happens when one chimp gets a grape and the other gets a piece of cucumber as its reinforcer, and see how this concept of fairness kind of plays out.
On the left is the monkey who gets cucumber. The one on the right is the one who gets grapes. The one who gets cucumber, note that the first piece of cucumber is perfectly fine. The first piece she eats. Then she sees the other one getting grape, and you will see what happens. So she gives a rock to us, that's the task. And we give her a piece of cucumber, and she eats it. The other one needs to give a rock to us. And that's what she does. And she gets a grape. And she eats it. The other one sees that. She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber. She tests the rock now against the wall. She needs to give it to us. And she gets cucumber again.
That was pretty wild, right? And there are TED Talks on this. The video from the original researchers are easy to find. I'll post a link to the TED Talk from the researcher that did this if you're interested in watching the entire video. But we can use it as fair use because this is educational content. So anyway, if we go to the video, the chimp who received the cucumber was visibly upset, and he threw it, right? He chucked it across and then was shaking the little bars, this is how we would look if we thought something was really unfair and we were upset about it. So the reaction tells us a lot about the concept of fairness, not just in chimps, but how we approach reinforcement in ABA and just in general. So from a behavior analytic perspective, this experiment on fairness would highlight a few things. That reinforcement value is relative, and sometimes we forget this and we don't do our preference assessments often enough, but the value of a reinforcer can change depending on what other people are getting, right? If one individual sees another person getting a more preferred reinforcer for the same behavior, their motivation and their response effort for the less preferred reinforcer are going to be affected in obvious ways. We can just do the matching law with that, right? Also, it's important to know that it can only be relative value if the individual has observational learning or joint attention. Otherwise, they wouldn't, have the issue. Anyway, moving on. Also about motivating operations. So this little vignette of angry chimps kind of perfectly illustrates how motivating operations can influence our behavior. The sight of seeing another chimp next to him or her get a more valuable reward, which is the grape, can decrease the effectiveness of a less preferred reinforcer and evoke frustration or refusal behaviors, which are responses to punishment, right, or at least aversive stimuli. And then, just for reinforcement generally speaking. We have to be careful to make sure that the reinforcer is a reinforcer for that person on that day, in that minute, for the task that you are asking them to do. Otherwise, and we can see from behavior, from reaction, that it is experienced by the chimpanzee as an aversive stimulus and not a reinforcer at all, or not even a neutral stimulus. And we don't want to cause anyone to have experience with like aversive stimuli when we're attempting to reinforce them. That would feel really bad, right? Like that's not any of our intention. So how do you know if your reinforcers aren't fair, or the person getting the reinforcer might be perceiving it as unfair, right? And if you think of more of these, because, you know, I'd love to hear about it. This is what I came up with. So the first thing is really just task refusal, right? Like if one of your clients or students starts refusing to engage in tasks after they see someone else receive a different reinforcer, they might be, you know, thinking it's not fair, right? You might have to do another preference assessment and see how that goes. Also, like I said, it's a response to punishment. So when you increase behaviors like that, that's emotional responding. That's what we call it. So anytime they're refusing to participate, have signs of emotional responding or frustration, like throwing things, shaking. There's no bars, no one's in cages, right? But like hitting stuff and just becoming more agitated and more psychomotor agitation and activity, right? It doesn't always mean, but it could indicate that they're experiencing some aversive stimuli due to perceived unfairness, possibly. We'll never know, right? Because it's a mentalism. I'm working on an operant definition of fairness, but I'm not done with it yet. Maybe next week. So how can we improve our practice with this information, right? Here's a few tips I came up with. Again, conduct your preference assessments regularly and not like once every 6 months or once a month. It should be as frequently as you possibly can. So just continuously assess and update what is reinforcing or potentially reinforcing what the preferred items are for that individual, because we know preferences can change over time and what's motivating today may not be tomorrow or even later today. We also need to individualize our reinforcement strategies. So you want to make sure that your reinforcers are like custom tailored to each individual's preferences and efforts and not just out of the reinforcer bin. It means you have to recognize that like a higher effort might require a higher value reinforcer. They have to match and be proportional to each other. And it's not if you think it's a lot of effort, it's if it is a lot of response effort from the person. So have they ever done this skill before? If they've done it a lot of times and they're fluent, they probably won't need a powerful reinforcer. But if it's something that's relatively new, even if it seems like it should be easy and it shouldn't be a lot of response effort, you're going to need a powerful reinforcer. So you might see like a ratio strain thing happening with this like perception of inequity, right? And you just want to monitor how your reinforcers are used if you're in a classroom or any kind of group setting, right? You want to like be aware of how they're distributed within the setting and do your best to make sure no one feels like they're getting shortchanged, because again, that could lead to frustration and disengagement. And learning, there should be no tears in learning, right? Learning should always be fun. So that's what I came up with. I think that understanding fairness and reinforcement is like really crucial for creating effective and positive interventions. And I thought that the cucumber grape study is so much fun that if any of you haven't seen it, I wanted to share it with you guys because it makes me smile. I really enjoy that stuff. So I hope you found the tip insightful and fun this week. Keep this stuff in mind as you go about your work. Thank you for watching. And also, I finished a CEU program on anxiety and behavior analytic ways to conduct functional assessments of anxiety, to develop treatment packages for behaviors related to anxiety, conceptually systematic definition and kind of like view of anxiety. So that is on the continuing education website, radisright.com. Check it out. And again, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week. And if you want to see more of this stuff, make sure you are joining the group if you're on Facebook, or you like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. Thanks so much.